82%.
Question number 3 in the name of Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does he agree with the Prime Minister's statement that, quotes, "I would go back to the most rigorous form of measuring employment in the economy and in relation to the manufacturing sector, that is the Household Labour Force Survey? If so, what was the net change in persons employed in manufacturing in the Household Labour Force Survey in the year to December 2012?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, yes, I do agree with the Prime Minister's statement. It is the most rigorous, but as he's often also said, it is also a survey, and different measures can be contradictory. For example, the HLFS last week said there was a net loss of jobs, full-time jobs in the last quarter. Jobs overall in the last quarter, actually an increase in full-time jobs, while the QES 2 days earlier, which the member is sometimes fond of quoting, said the number of filled jobs had increased over the same period. Turning to the second part of the question, the net change in persons employed in manufacturing in the HLFS survey in the year to December 2012 is 17,200 people. It's worth pointing out that in the 2010 year, the number of persons employed in manufacturing increased by a similar amount, while in the 2011 year, the number was static.
Order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Honourable David Parker.
He mentioned a figure, sir, but he didn't say whether that change was up or down in respect of the 17,000 figure he quoted. Could the minister...
No, well, I think to clarify, can I ask the Minister just to repeat the second part where he spoke to the specific second part of the member's question?
I'll try and be helpful on that, Mr Speaker. Turning to the second part of the question, the net change in persons employed in manufacturing in the HLFS survey in the year to December 2012 is, as the member asserts, a decline of 17,200. As I said, it's worth pointing out in the 2010 year, the number of persons employed in manufacturing increased by the same amount, around 17,000, while last year, 2011 year, the number was static.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Further supplementary questions.
Does he agree with the economist that, quotes, deindustrialisation and slow manufacturing productivity growth hurt a country's ability to export and eventually led it into balance of payments difficulties? As for tradable services, they too depend in the long run on a strong manufacturing base. And if he doesn't agree with that, why not?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, I obviously haven't seen that particular quote, even though I am an ardent reader of The Economist, but can I point out to the member that what he's referring to has actually been occurring in the Western world for many years, including in this country. In fact, since the 1970s, the number of people working in manufacturing in this country has declined, as it has in the agricultural industry since they created mechanised tractors. That's actually happened. Well, if the member would like to pretend we can stop the world and go back to steam engines, he can go right ahead and present that to the New Zealand public. But actually, productivity in the New Zealand manufacturing sector is grown at a faster rate than many countries in the world. And if you just look today, the optimism and the manufacturing index today has gone to a 54-point positive, which is a positive thing for the manufacturing sector.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Given his reference to the manufacturing index in that last answer, why is it a good news story when the employment indicator of the manufacturing index shows manufacturing, which has lost 17,000 jobs over the last year, is in its eighth straight month of employment contraction?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, the manufacturing sector, the PMI index that I referred to, shows manufacturing activity up 5 points from December to 55.2. He is correct in saying employment is still in a negative indicator in this particular survey. But again, the member pretends, as he often does, that the reality is that manufacturing jobs declining as productivity increases is a new phenomenon. It actually goes back 40-something years, and it is tough for the individuals involved. I absolutely acknowledge that. But anybody who suggests he can stop that is trying to sell a snake oil solution.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Given the Minister's preference to refer to value rather than jobs in manufacturing, why does he continue to claim the manufacturing sector is growing when the real value of manufacturing exports outside the primary sector has declined by 10% since 2008 and 5% in the last year?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, the member is being incredibly disingenuous. So the manufacturing sector includes a whole range of things, including the primary sector, such as food processing, which is actually when I went to school in manufacturing. The member is constantly trying to find himself a little statistics which tries and backfills the fact that he claims that there's a manufacturing crisis. The reality is it's difficult in every industry because of the challenging world conditions, but New Zealand businesses are doing a good job in growing the New Zealand economy.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Did National promise 170,000 more jobs at the last election?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, I think the member was in the House yesterday where this question was asked, and the answer is, of course, yes, and that was the Treasury forecast at the time. And according to the QES, we've had 54,000 new jobs over the last 2 years.
That's right.
Question number 4, Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks,